Hey there. All right, so I'm going to talk about this recent article in F-Stoppers, which is causing a bit of a kerfuffle, written by a gentleman named James Madison. And yeah, basically taking the position that film photography is doomed. Now, the first half of Mr. Madison's essay is concerned with the topic of what he refers to as a zero-sum game. I think what he's trying to describe is some sort of intergenerational tension or conflict, because he's not using the word properly. So I know this sounds a bit pedantic, but I am trained as an attorney, and the proper use of language, the precise use of language, is kind of important to me. So I'm going to rant for a bit about that. If that does not interest you, go ahead and shut off the video. Just skip it. This has nothing to do with photography. Mr. Madison does make a few points worth discussing, which I may do in a separate video. But right now, I'm just going to be a pedantic lawyer and fuss at him for the imprecise use of language. If you're going to write an essay, just please use terminology and concepts which you understand. And I don't mean to fuss at Mr. Madison, but his website, which has very little information about himself, other than the fact that he's a statistician from Columbus, Ohio, you know, he's sort of writing outside of his expertise by using the term. So the term zero-sum game comes from political science, and it was mostly used to describe the relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. And a zero-sum game is a way of conceptualizing an adversarial relationship such that any loss for one side is a gain for the other, of necessity. And I'm going to illustrate that with an example. For example, here we've got the Soviet Union and the Western Alliance led by the United States. So let's think of the hypothetical country, the Grand Duchy of, or the Duchy of Grand Fenwick. Okay, and the Duchy of Grand Fenwick is a conservative monarchy led by pro-Western government. So it is securely in the American or the Western camp. Now, during this time period, there were basically three groups of countries in the world. The first world, represented by the democratic capitalist West. The second world, represented by the communist East. And the third world, which is where that word comes from, which were not necessarily aligned with either side. And during this period, there was something called the non-aligned movement led by India, which sought to avoid committing oneself to one side or the other. Okay, so here we have the Duchy of Grand Fenwick. It is a conservative monarchy allied with the West. There is a communist revolution. The Duchy of Grand Fenwick is now the People's Republic of Grand Fenwick. It is a single-party communist state. It develops a relationship with the Soviet Union such that it receives weapons and training for its military from the Soviet Union. Its security forces are trained by the KGB, and it provides logistical support for the Soviet Union in its part of the world. Okay, it is now a Soviet client state, or at least a Soviet ally. This is a loss for the capitalist West and a gain for the communist East. That's fairly obvious. Okay, now there is a military coup in the People's Republic of Grand Fenwick, and the military junta decides that they do not wish to be aligned with either side. The military junta says, we are now the Republic of Grand Fenwick, and we're not picking sides. We prefer the approach chosen by the Indians, and we are now a part of the non-aligned movement. We're not going to commit to either side. We're not giving military access to either great power, to either superpower. That's what they said back then. So this is now a loss for the Soviets, but not necessarily a gain for the West. Unless you view the concept, again, unless your perception is such that you view your adversarial relationship as a zero-sum game. In that situation, and this is purely a matter of perception, in that situation, the capitalist West, the United States, which most certainly did view it as a zero-sum game, says, ha-ha, we got you, we won one. When in fact they didn't win anything, right? We didn't win anything, but the Soviets lost. So therefore, we won. And it is only that way because we choose to view it that way. We choose to view our adversarial relationship in these terms, and both the United States and the Soviet Union did this. So we would poke our fingers at the Soviets and say, "Ha ha, Grant Fenwick's no longer in your camp. Ha ha ha, we won one and you lost. You godless communist." And this is the way that the relationships were conceptualized back then. Now, you could extend this analogy to any adversarial relationship. So, let's think about this. You and I work in the same office. We are competing for the affection of a lovely young lady who works in our office. She is not committed to either one of us. She's never dated either one of us. You get a promotion. I view this as a loss for me, right? I view that as you're getting a promotion, so you are now a more attractive potential mate to this woman who is the object of our mutual affection, and I view that as a loss. Even though I still have the same job, same responsibility, same title, same paycheck. I didn't actually lose anything. I choose to see the world that way. I choose to conceptualize our relationship such that anytime you win, that is, anytime you become more attractive to the young lady, then I view that as a loss. Now, let's say that you ask the young lady out, and she accepts, and you're scheduled to go on a date on the weekend. But the day before, you get in a terrible automobile accident, break both your legs, and you are incapacitated and hospitalized for some time to come. I now view this as a win for me, even though I didn't do anything, and she's not going out with me, but you can't go out with her. You're incapacitated. You're out of the game. For me, that's a win because I choose to see it that way. Got it? So that's what zero-sum game means. Zero-sum game is not merely a game that adds up to zero. It is a deliberate way of conceptualizing an adversarial relationship whereby anything bad that happens to you, if you stub your toe, I win. Okay, if you win a scratch ticket in the lottery and you win $20, I lose. That's what zero-sum game means. Okay, pedantic rant over. I'm really curious to see if this gets any views. If this is really annoying and you don't want me to do this sort of thing again, please leave a note or a message, comment. I'm a big boy; I can take it. I won't do this again if it bothers you, if you think I'm wasting your time. But for some reason, this particular essay in F-stoppers has caused a bit of a fuss amongst the analog online world. And I'm sure that Mr. Madison was trying to communicate something about, it seems to me, some sort of intergenerational tension or conflict, but he chose a rather poor analogy, or at least he did not express it very well. Nothing against Mr. Madison. I'm sure he is a fine statistician, but he obviously did not major in English or politics or history in college. Anyway, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I'm it just comes naturally. I don't have to try. Sorry. Like I said, rant over it. That's it. All right, if you like the video, please subscribe. As a courtesy to subscribers, videos will not be monetized for the first 30 days following release. So you can see all of my content commercial-free for 30 days if you subscribe and click on the notifications. Also, check out the links below and blah, blah, blah. I'll see you in another video. I may talk about a couple of very valid points that Mr. Madison did raise in his essay, which are, in fact, worth discussing in a subsequent video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.